Okay, so it is now 6 o'clock, and I will open the Wellfleet Select Board meeting of Tuesday, December 10th, 2019. We will begin with announcements, open sessions, and public comments, and please remember that public comments need to be brief, and the board cannot deliberate or vote on any matter. Any comments or announcements from the board?
This select board member would like to make a comment, which is, I appreciate that the DPW decorates the town with lights. However, the lights that are around the rim of the front of Town Hall make certain people, and I'm one of them,
Oh, are they
nauseous.
flashing?
And they're not only distracting. If there were one color, it would be fine, but they're a set of people, and they can't help it, and I'm one of them again, that I get nauseous, literally the short time I walked up
Okay,
to.
we get it, yeah.
Yeah, so can we please not have it flashing? Also, it's distracting.
Is
Thank you.
anyone here from the DPW? You're looking at somebody, but no, okay. So I would, along those lines, say that the tree lighting and the singing and this young people from the school that came and sang and the whole hot chocolate event was, and Andrew Staker's wonderful performance of music. It was really great, and I think it was bigger and better than ever. There's quite a crowd there. I don't know if anybody kept numbers, but thank everybody who was involved in that. It was a really nice town thing to do. Okay, anybody else? Any announcements from the audience? Mr. Elkin?
Hi, Dick Elkin, Energy Committee. I'd just like to let everyone know that the solar array at the landfill, all the panels have been installed and all of the wiring is complete, and we are now awaiting the title to be cleared through land court so we can get the connection with Eversource, which should happen early next year. I'll leave a picture on the back. There are a couple up front, so you can see an aerial view of what it looks like.
That's great.
Hi, good evening. Cheryl Jaffe, representing the Martin Luther King Planning Committee. Once again, we will be doing our noon gathering and song circle in front of the town hall, and we've spoken with the acting chief, who will be taking good care of us as we walk down to the library and then back to Pres Hall, where we'll be having a brief program along with our potluck lunch.
Thank you. And what's the date? Obviously, it's the
Date is
Monday, but I'm going to
January
confirm
20th.
that. January 20th?
It's 1/20/20.
Huh, it seems late in the year.
We're going to
Okay.
need a reminder.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'll leave a few flyers and.
You'll post it online and post it on
Yep, it'll
Facebook.
be posted on the town website, and there'll be flyers around town.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, Mike
Good
Hurley, Acting Police Chief. Courtney. Just a few announcements. Toys for Tots was this past Saturday, and we just want to thank the community. We got quite a few that came out to Dunkin' Donuts on Saturday to stuff the cruiser and the ambulance. Wellfleet, with the fire department's assistance, we brought 450 toys up to Hyannis on Sunday. They did a parade. They were there for a 3-day period. We did a public safety parade on Sunday. The numbers from last year, which I believe I was told this year they exceeded, 62,000 toys were distributed last year to 32,000 children. So it's quite an event. Some departments had 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 toys. So that's for us to shoot for next year. This Saturday at 9:30, Santa is coming to the Wellfleet Cinema, sponsored by the Wellfleet Police Fire and the Eastham Police and Fire Association. So get there early. We usually 100, 125 kids come, and then there's a movie at 10 a.m. So the parents can go do some shopping or anything that they need to get done for Christmas. Third thing, I was advised last week, one of my more senior officers, 16 years, George Spirito, lives in Eastham, started as a special in 2004, has resigned. Partly personal, partly just relocation to Florida. So we wish him the best. We don't typically make all announcements with resignations, but he was here 16 years. He did a lot in the community, worked well here at the senior center, So I just wanted to acknowledge that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience? Okay, moving on. We have the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group and the town treasurer being kind of one of the same, with Miriam Spencer and a conflict of interest report request. Yes, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good, thanks. So, as you know, you appointed me to the board of the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group as treasurer, and it came up at our last meeting that it would be in our best interest to disclose our, any conflict of interest, and I gave you background information on the situation as well as the legal opinion that was drafted for the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group. So the board votes on rates and various other things, as you can see in the disclosure form that I completed. And really, I just need you to decide whether you approve of the disclosure, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Kathleen?
Yeah, this is a lot of paperwork for a disclosure, and I understand it, but perhaps you can explain to the audience why you were asked to do this, so they can understand the relationship.
Right, well, it was found that, the legal opinion was found that being on the board and also receiving, I get my health insurance through the town, and as a board member, I'm voting on the rates that I'm receiving, I suppose, or that I am paying. And it came up, I'm not sure what year it was, but it was an issue in some town, and so they, just to make it straightforward, which makes perfect sense, I think, to disclose the fact that I am a participant in one of the health plans, so that, everything's above board.
Yeah, so there's transparency.
Exactly.
Justina?
Yeah, I appreciate the thoroughness of the documentation, and I see here that the situation you're in regarding your conflict, potential conflict, is, the letter here says, is the situation for most of your fellow board members.
Right, exactly, and my predecessors, so,
Yeah,
I mean,
so
Rosemary
it's an
Moriarty and-
ongoing.
Yeah.
And then I know that the law doesn't distinguish between large and small amounts of money at stake in the potential conflict, but the cost of the insurance is about $1,000 a year, so we're probably talking about small amounts of money. So I'm fine with this based on those two grounds.
Anyone else? May I have a motion?
I move that the board has determined that the financial interest is not so substantial as to be deemed likely to affect the integrity of the services which the town may expect from Miriam Spencer, Town Treasurer. The disclosure is dated November 4th, 2019.
There a
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
If you're helping to get off, it didn't work.
Some people do anything to get off a board, but it didn't work, all right. So
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead, nope, sorry.
The second item is, I read the motion, and I'm a little concerned because really this is the first reading of the change of language for the joint purchasing agreement. They've made slight changes in their language, and as a first reading, they're looking for your feedback. And then in January, when the final version is completed, I'll bring it back for a vote. So really just feedback on the language change.
And did do that, the second part of it, look at feedback. Yes, Kathleen?
Miriam, are you comfortable with the language yourself?
I am, yep.
So I'm confident that we can be as well.
Mr. Hort, have any comments?
I'm comfortable with the
Okay.
language.
Okay,
May I, Janet?
yes, you may.
I move that the board accepts the terms of this agreement for the joint negotiation and purchase of health coverage on the behalf of the town with presented amendments.
Second.
Is there a second?
I'm sorry, I think if I can interrupt here, we don't really need a motion at this
That's right,
point.
that's what I
This
had
is just to
underlined,
give
yeah.
feedback, but that motion will come at the next time it comes back.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay,
so
yes,
just
thank
moving
you.
on.
Yeah,
Great.
and so everybody can look at this, and, yeah, I mean, it's well done.
Yeah.
I have
and
no
we-
comments.
We discussed it at the last
Yeah.
meeting and asked a few questions, but everything seemed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your work.
My pleasure.
And now we have, is Mia up? Yes, yes, okay, so next we have, same thing, conflict of interest disclosure. And I will start off just saying we got a letter from somebody who said that I harassed or sidelined you or something the other meeting, and I'm sorry if it was taken that way. This conflict of interest is really important. And the fact that Mia wants to videotape every committee, every program, is part of the whole transparency that I guess is somewhat new in government. I'm not really sure, because I haven't been.
Well, that's not an accurate statement. I don't want to videotape every committee. And
Okay,
even if
okay,
we
you're-
did
okay.
videotape every
Don't- yeah,
committee,
don't-
I don't want to do all of them.
Okay, no, but you get my point, is that we want to do this. And Helen has also been a great proponent that whenever anyone comes on to any committee, even a, whatever, then there's no simple committees, that you look and read the conflict of interest bylaw, regulation, and also the open meeting law, because we are all volunteers on a certain level. I guess we're not really volunteers, we're some other
We're
specialty.
special
We're
municipal
special
employees.
municipal
We
employees,
got
yeah.
jobs.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Chair.
So that's good. No, I was looking at you for the answer, but, you know, everybody really gives a lot, and yet we are bound by state regulations, by federal regulations. So it's very important, if you're on a committee and you're here and you haven't filed a disclosure because you need to, please do so. So, Kathleen?
Yeah, I have a commentary I'm going to make, and I hope you'll listen to me. I support the Board of Selectmen requesting a disclosure with regard to conflict of interest. But I want to point out to everybody that this is something that this young woman brought up to this board a while ago when she got involved with the media. Second to that statement, I want to say that when anybody in this town volunteers or commits their talent to doing something for the greater good, we need to support them in every possible way. This is what sustainable community is. It bothered me deeply that while she sat here that particular evening, if you saw her face, she felt shame and like she had done something unlawful. I think that could have been done another way. We simply need to do better. If we are going to keep people of this talent in this community, we need to support them 100%. I can't say it any louder. Andrew Staker, who led the children at the Christmas tree lighting, that kid is amazing. This young woman brings talents to this town that would just blow your mind. She is a gem of an individual, a gem, and we need to keep her here. So while I support the request that the board made for the disclosure of conflict of interest, I'm going to repeat, it should have been done a different way. My apologies to you, Mia.
Thank you very much.
Janet?
Yes.
I have no idea how you felt about that. You brought forward to us when you first, it was a while back, you said, this is going to be a conflict. You seem very professional and aware. You were the ideal municipal employee in my mind. And I include specials in that, because you're doing more than one thing, which means you have a wide sense of what's going on. I spend more time with Mia at meetings than I do with some of my friends. This is a routine thing, and it does something very important. It's not meant to be shaming. It's that the public gets to hear this board look at somebody and say, we think you're good to go and that you're going to serve the town when you go into town hall and you have to take an oath. It's very important that this happens in public if there's an actual conflict, i.e. your finances are actually affected positively or negatively. And thank you for professionally following through with this. And I thank the board for attending to it publicly. It's a reassurance, because I've been in this town when people have served multiply on different things, and they've done it when I was younger and then not so young, purely for their own self-interests. And we don't want to be like that anymore. And I feel very fierce about it. I feel that we need more integrity, and we've got it now. Thank you.
Welcome.
So any other comments from the board?
I guess I'm curious how Kathleen, in the future, would want to address this type of thing, because when it came up in the meeting, I felt like it was appropriate the way that, and maybe I'm not sure what the process could have been like. So I'm just curious to Kathleen, because whenever something comes up like this, it's important that these disclosures are made for the protection of the person who's actually doing, if there is a conflict of interest or a financial conflict of interest, that, we have to deal with these things before we get too far into them. So I'm not really sure what we could have done differently in that situation. So I'm curious to hear what.
Well, I'm not going to make a hypothetical. We do have KP Law that works for us. They should be watching our back at every opportunity. And we have a town administrator who was aware of her request about the conflict of interest when she went into the program, or whatever you want to call it. It's water under the bridge now. But there were some hurt feelings, trust me.
Madam Chair?
Christina?
Me, I'm not a paperwork person, and I spent 8 years on a regulatory board, and my holes in what I should have done were big, and no one informed me, and I was really mad. But there's like 45 committees and things, someone should have told you. And the process has bumps, and it has nothing to do with you personally. I think it's more than clear what a great person you are, and how earnestly you are working on what you work and believe in what you believe. So I joined. I think Mikey's right. How could we have handled it better in real time? But it in no way was personal to you or a statement of what you should have done or a reprimand. It's our job to make sure it's incredible how much conflict of interest and open law stuff there is, and there's so many committees that there's bumps in the road, and sorry, you got about 3 of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So are you going to make a motion? Is that what
Yeah,
you said? Yes,
because I
please.
cleaned it
Yes.
up a little bit so that it will serve you.
I have questions on the motion and question of.
I'm going to read you what I've got, okay?
I'm not ready to vote. We haven't deliberated.
I'm going to read you what I've got so you can, because I've changed the motion to address the 2 things that came in our packet.
Okay,
which
so
was-
read the motion without
Yeah.
making the motion.
Yeah, this is not a motion, and here's how I redrafted it. I move to approve the Select Board's determination that Mia Baumgarten's conflict of interest under Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, Sections 19 and 20, last paragraph of Section 20, which is the small town disclosure, will not affect the integrity of the services which the town may expect from her. And that sort of is the more normal way to make this kind of motion. And you need to cite what me is coming in under. It isn't just 19, which is,
It's part of 20.
yeah, it's the last paragraph in 20, which goes on, and then all the way at the bottom, there's this little tiny paragraph that says, oh, but if it's a town under 3,500, none of this applies.
Madam Chair? And
Yes.
Helen, with respect, I actually have a reason why I would suggest that the best resolution of the conflict of interest is that Mia continues to serve as chair of the committee, but that is, does what the rest of us do and recuse from voting on specific measures that affect your financial interest. And the reason that I want to ask you, please, to think of that is when we're getting the cable policy, I would like to know that that excellent policy is free, clean, utterly whistle clean in that area. And Mikey has to recuse on shellfish stuff, and you know, it's normal for people to recuse when their living is at stake, and it's not a personal comment. Mia could leave town tomorrow, and we get a new person in her place. And also the policy gives quite a bit of authority to the operations manager. So again, I think it's just cleaner that a town person on a committee doesn't vote on things that directly affect, you know, amounts of money. I could,
Her financially.
yeah, I can then
I
vote
amended-
better on the policy.
I
You
amended
amended
it
it
and
again?
included that thought. Shall I read it to you? I just did that.
Did you do
No,
another?
I'll rely on your statesmanship to
Okay.
school me.
Yeah, this is drafting. So that's a good point. It would simply mean you get to do everything, but when anything having
So
to...
why don't you read the
Hold
amendment?
on, I'm looking at you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Anything that comes up about what people get paid when you're on the Cable Advisory Committee, that you just recuse and don't say anything. It's pretty easy.
Would that apply to anyone who's a production technician? We have another person on the committee as a production technician.
No, your finances, negatively
Okay.
or
Yeah.
No, I'm
So-
just asking,
Would-
should
would-
that person recuse himself too?
I would
So
think so.
any time a town,
No, hold on.
someone on the.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Not if they're not on multiple other things. If they're just serving on that one committee, they don't have to recuse.
You have to recuse anytime it's to your it may affect your finances.
Negatively or positively.
Right.
Yes.
So that's the simplest definition.
Oh, you mean another employee?
Yeah,
Yes.
not me.
Okay,
Anybody
yes.
who's voting to improve their own financial situation has to recuse. Anyone who's voting to get themselves fired probably has to recuse too, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's simple, but it's confusing, and I thought we had the confusion cleared up, but I guess we don't. So,
Okay. And Madam
you want to
Chair?
make a motion?
Yes, I do, and we can hear it. So it's everything I read
Just
before
make
with
the
one
motion.
last final phrase.
Start from the top, Helen.
Of course. I move to approve the Select Board's determination that Mia Baumgarten's conflict of interest under Mass General Law, Chapter 268A, Sections 19 and 20, will not affect the integrity of the services which the town may expect from her, with the exception of acting on matters affecting her finances as a member of the Cable Advisory Committee. Okay?
Sounds a bit convoluted to me.
It's all got all the right
Does
commas.
everybody in the audience understand that?
Do you want me to read it again?
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. It's clear to you?
I got it.
Because we know what we're
you.
talking
Very
about.
good.
Yeah.
Okay. If it's clear to Jan, it's clear. Good.
Yeah.
Do you want a
Okay.
second?
Have a
Second.
second. Yep.
Second?
Okay. You good, Mike?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
good to
yeah,
go?
yeah, I'm good to go.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So now we have community updates, committee updates, which are sort of community updates, and we have first 95 Lawrence Road.
You have one more,
Oh, did I?
Yeah, we have
Shellfish,
another
I
conflict
thought
of
there
interest,
was.
Shellfish
So I'm
Advisory.
telling you, I don't like glasses. They really leave things out. They edit my things. So now Shellfish Advisory Board, we have lots of them.
Okay,
Um,
can I do
Is
this?
everyone here?
No, they don't have to be.
Okay.
May I address this?
Yes, you may.
I was at
Although,
the-
do you have a conflict of interest?
No, I really don't at all
Okay. Go ahead.
whatsoever about this.
Okay.
You're teasing me.
Sort of.
So I'm going to add a few words here, because you understand, routinely, this board likes to have the Shellfish Committee weigh in on lots of things, including fees. And the fee thing comes up routinely. So what I crafted was a motion that has everybody named in this. If there's some new member that comes in next year, they're going to have to come towards us, to us for this as an individual. But you understand, you're supposed to, when you do these disclosures, it's supposed to be on a particular matter. So what I did was, and I added at the beginning of this motion, in particular matters related to discussions and recommendations related to fees now and in the future, comma, and then it goes on to be just the way it is, except I changed Dave's name to David. So they have all submitted their disclosures, and they've done it quite nicely. And other matters that they deliberate on, when I was on the committee, we did this a very long time ago. I didn't have to because I had no, financial interest or anything. And it's just, the thing with fees is such a direct effect, and it affects them so specifically that it's different than these sort of overarching policy decisions. It's really money out of your pocket or not. And then I can tell you what they recommended last night, but that's another agenda item for another night. How does that feel?
Good.
So fees to me fall under financial interest, but if you want to delineate it and change the motion, do you want to read the motion that you have, please?
Yeah, it refers to financial
read
fees.
it.
Okay, in particular matters related to discussions and recommendations related to fees, comma, now and in the future, I move that the Select Board, determine that the financial interest is not so substantial as to be deemed likely to affect the integrity of the services which the town may expect from David Seitler, comma, Rebecca Taylor, Zach Dixon, Thomas Sagia, John Duane, Chip Benton, and Jake Puffer, comma, Shellfish Advisory Board members. This disclosure is dated December 6, 2019.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor? Okay. Thank you.
And these are supposed to be kept on file by the town clerk.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, now we move on to 95 Lawrence Road.
Thank you, Elaine. Good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
thank you.
We have a couple of members of the 95 Lawrence Road Task Force here tonight. Jan Plowey from the school committee and Andy Freeman from the planning board. Myself from the housing authority. We also, Kathleen Bacon from the select board has been serving. Gary Sorkin from the local housing partnership. Jim Hood from the water commissioners. Jay Horowitz from the building needs committee. And from the Wellfleet Seasonal Residents Association, Carl Sussman, and we've been getting ex officio and staff support from our Assistant Town Administrator, Mike Travato, and from Dan Hort. And this group has been an amazing group coming together to learn so much of the what's that word I want?
Intricacies.
Intricacies?
Why did I say that? Of affordable housing. We're at a point in our work where we really want to bring our thoughts to the community, and it felt like this was a perfect opportunity to start with you. But over the next month or two, we will be doing more. But let me just give you a little summary of what we've been doing. As you know, the whole thing started, we received a grant from the Mass Housing Partnership for the preliminary site evaluation and the capacity study. We've also had the help of ongoing consulting services from the Mass Housing Partnership with Laura Schufelt, a wonderful consultant who lives on the Cape, originally worked with the Falmouth Housing Authority. She lives in Barnstable, works for the Mass Housing Partnership statewide. And those services are provided free of charge to us, and that will take us all the way through the RFP and selecting a developer process. We've been meeting twice a month as much as possible and working on the due diligence and the pre-development activities that will go into preparing requests for proposal. We've done a title search and are happy to have a clear title. We have a lot of documentation of needs assessment. We've gotten a lot of information on the financial feasibility of such a project. And we know the water situation needs some extra study, so we have applied for a grant to do some research into that. We are starting to plan our community outreach, and after tonight, we will be having the Wellfleet Forum will be sponsoring a community info session on Monday, January 6th at 7 p.m. at the COA, and we'd love to have a good turnout. We'll be presenting information, looking for feedback, and taking all that in as we continue our work. The Select Board we will need you to approve the RFP before we send it out, and right now we anticipate we could have something ready by the end of March or early April, and then we would be sending it out at the end of April or early May. So the big items that we do want to start sharing with the community are our thoughts from what we've found out so far. And I'm going to give you, these are ideas that probably need a lot more discussion, and we would love to have a work session with you sometime, but this is where we are at this point. Based on the documented need, based on what we know the capacity of the site is, and based on what we know the economic possibilities of funding, we feel it's our duty to look at how we can work through design and consensus to maximize this project. The maximum number of units that a capacity study shows it can support is 46 apartments. So we're looking in our mind of how that can be reached or what's the appropriate reach for that. 1 to 3 bedrooms, a mix of smaller and larger buildings. We want to serve a range of income from 30% of the area median income to 120%. We want the architecture to be compatible with the area and with Wellfleet's traditional and modernist vernacular design. Thinking about communal outdoor gathering spaces, energy-efficient construction, on-site property management, the maintenance of the beautiful densely wooded slope to the north of the property, the capacity to site the septic system under the ball field and then to renovate the ball field, looking at the safety of walkways to the school and traffic in the area, and then by law, requiring the 70% local preference for Wellfleet residents. So this is the community where we're looking at creating and having conversation with the community about doing that in the upcoming months. I did put at the bottom the ranges of income that we're trying to meet. Everybody's always interested in that, and it's a little hard to read, I'm sorry. But as we have already talked about before from our recent needs assessment, since 1990, our population ages 25 to 44 has decreased by 62%. Seasonal housing has increased by 80%, and rentals have decreased by 13.9%. Also, from the two recent rental opportunities here on the Cape, the big development in Eastham, and a small number of apartments that have become available from P-Town and to Truro. We know 157 people from the Outer Cape applied for this housing, which means that at least that many, if not more, because not everybody will go through the application process, and if it wasn't Wellfleet, they might not wanted to have lived there. But we know that these are people that need safe, secure, affordable housing that won't be taken out from under them. As long as you're a good tenant when you get into affordable housing, you can stay there, you can concentrate on your family, your job, your health, your school. And we also have documentation from the census and the American Community Survey that close to 50% of the renters in Wellfleet are cost-burdened, severely cost-burdened, which means they're spending more than 50% of their income on rent. And an additional 25% are cost-burdened, spending more than 30% of their income on rent. So this is all part of the soup we're working with on this project. And we look forward to trying to build support and share ideas.
Yeah, I think the forum is a good place to start. And probably there, I don't know how far you will have progressed with the RFP. Not at all.
This is where we want to start talking
Okay,
with people.
to take positive feedback, just hear what people may have to say or what they want. That's usually a good cross-section of the town.
Right.
So, but, good. Kathleen?
Yeah, this task force has been working diligently on this. I don't think I've missed a meeting, and they're 8 a.m. in the morning. But we've been working to put together a draft for a proposal for development. It's our hope to provide the community 46 units of housing. It is an ideal location for the town to do this. And it's also a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the town. I want to stress that. This will never happen again. It'll allow us to bring up our housing stock, which is at a deplorable 1.9% in the state of Massachusetts. You shouldn't be able to live with that number. But our hopes are also to attract a developer. That's part of the mix here. We've got to attract a developer to do this for us. And how do we do that? We're doing it by providing them the land with a 99-year lease, at which we'll probably request maybe $1. We're doing that by hoping and promising that we'll deliver municipal water to the site. Okay? If we can't bring water to the site, we're not going to get a developer. So all these things in putting an RFP together, it's very, very complicated. And it's like threading a needle. It's like, to create affordable housing is like threading a needle. You just hope you can hit it the first time to get in the queue for funding, so on and so forth. But it's going to fly, and I think it'll fly because with your help and townwide support, that'll make this work. Everybody has to get behind this project. Everybody. There can't be any more "not my backyard" or this isn't what we want for the town of Wellfleet. This is what the town of Wellfleet's going to need in the future. That you can't be in denial about it anymore. The last thing I want to say is I have been honored to to serve with this task force. Andy Freeman, Jan Plowey, Gary Sorkin, Elaine McElroy, Susan Spear, Jim Hood, Mike Travato. I've been honored to serve with them. Thank you. And Carl Sussman.
So I'm sure you're aware of this, and it doesn't sound like it's necessary, but if you do need something for town meeting, you got to be ready 1st of March,
Right, I understand. Yep.
right? 1st of March-ish, yeah. Helen?
Yeah, so everything Kathleen said, yes. However, in my usual way, my greater concern, and this is for the affordability of the whole town, Elaine McElroy and I did quite a lot of research on the available water. And it's not a matter of needing to add a whole lot more pipes to supply water to this lot, because it goes to right down the hill. But the resource of our municipal water systems wells is something that should be very, very carefully protected, because every time you have a new well, it costs a huge amount of money and it's maintenance forever. Therefore, I strongly suggest that you price out and take a look at something which is used normally in a lot of places and would be perfect there, which is you double plumb those units, which would mean less gallons from the municipal water system, right, for drinking water. And double plumbing means you flush toilets and do a few other things like irrigation and stuff from a well that's right there on the property. And that can cut the water use, the gallons per day necessary, by a huge number. I also have to remind you that the water system has this, it's not a secret, it's there. From the time it was put in, any lot that's in the original municipal water system, which was called the Coles Neck system, has a commitment for any gallons they may need. And a lot of those, this is something else Ms. McElroy and I looked at carefully in detail, lot by lot, with Hillary Lemos. There are a lot of lots there that aren't built out to the maximum number of bedrooms they can have, or even built on at all. And every one of them has first dibs, has a commitment for getting water supplied to them legally. And that is often forgotten, but when you're looking at this, and you're looking at the gallons per day for that many units, which would be really cool, in my opinion, you need to think about that. So please look into it so that this is win-win. Thank you.
And, you know, since people here and we are on being videotaped, that if you have some good suggestions like that, to get them to the committee before everything is done, right? Or whatever. So be nice and send your comments and suggestions in early. Yeah, yeah. No, and it's still a process. So I hope you're going to have pictures in January. You going to have pictures of the RF? Nope, not too early, okay.
Pictures, no.
Okay, all right. Oh, now I forgot what I wanted to ask Mike. So I know that they're working on, yeah, Mike's in charge of getting money for the water. That's what I'll say. How's that?
Which Mike?
Travato. But anyhow, we're not talking about that. They're just presenting tonight, so. Unless you have any particular comments.
I just have a question just for the audience and the audience at home. How many acres this will be on? Because that wasn't mentioned, and I feel like people should understand that it's quite a bit of acreage. We're not cramming 47 units into like. Yeah. 46.
Yeah, it's, the town meeting vote was to use 4 to 6 acres that's available there. And it's, you know, hopefully we will have an engineer at the first or second community meeting really explaining the really positive attributes of the site. A great site, you know, there's the beautiful bigger piece and the small piece on Long Pond Road, 6 acres. By being able to potentially use the ball field for the septic, we really have 9 acres contributing to this. Something else I wanted to say, but I'm not sure. Just in terms of the larger lot, it's completely oriented towards solar. You know, it will be an exciting thing to try to use both passive
Yeah.
building techniques and the potential option for solar.
And you've got the Energy Committee helping you with that, I would
We're
think.
going to meet with them.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I've heard. Good.
And
Justine, do you have a
hopefully they'll
question?
come to community meetings too, so everybody
Yeah,
can hear
they-
what they have
yeah.
to say.
Oh, I just wanted to say that this is the best of our town, and so many good people coming together to solve a big problem and make our town better. And the unanimous town meeting vote that went into earmarking Lawrence Road for the acreage. And Elaine, thank you for this. It was really easy to follow, the way that you
Presented it.
listed it and went through it, and it was very substantive, but yet really clear. And I like the density of information. And then finally, a shout out to Kathleen, who showed the clarity of vision from the very beginning to dedicate Lawrence Road to housing and never gave up. And it wouldn't be happening without her.
Great.
Okay.
Good. Well, thank you, and we'll see you in January.
Yep. Do you want the quick update from the Housing Authority and the partnership?
Well,
too?
yes, I didn't know who was leaving and who was staying. Yeah, yes, you are. You're now the Housing
Thank you.
Authority,
Yeah.
and then the Housing Partnership.
Yeah. We work very closely together, so we thought
Yeah.
we would share what we've been working on. This is Maddie Entel, who is on the Local Housing Partnership. Anybody else out there tonight? No? Okay. All good things. The list here is what we've been doing over the past year and a half. We just carried out our 6th buy-down. Another young local person has an existing home that's now an affordable home, affordable in perpetuity, and will be submitting a CPA application to be able to do another buy-down. This has been an amazing program to have funding available, to be able to use existing housing, to have it happen pretty quickly, to save some of the modest houses. We're just so thrilled that it's been able to happen here in Wellfleet. And we get a lot of support from the state for it. We are now able to count these houses on our state housing list. The state has approved the project, so the last 3 that we've done. We haven't yet on that list, it says we're at 1.9, has not yet added Gull Pond to that list. It hasn't added our 3 buy-downs. We're doing a little better than that 1.9 says, but it's still not great, So anyway, we've also done we've awarded 3 down payment assistant grants to help local young people buy their first home. That one isn't a grant, it's actually a loan up to $20,000 using CPA funds. We can also use funds from our Affordable Housing Trust Fund for that. You only pay back the loan if you sell your house. So if you get your Wellfleet home and stay there forever, you don't have to pay it back. We just finished working with HAC, the Housing Assistance Corporation in Hyannis, to carry out the resale of one of our affordable homes in the old Wharf Road area. This is only the second time an affordable home has gone up for resale. It's kind of a complicated process, but HAC has someone on staff that does that. So this one went pretty smoothly. It was great. We are contracting with the CDP for part-time housing specialist services. We got a grant at town meeting last year to do that. We put out an RFP for that, had 3 submissions, and selected the CDP. So we'll be starting to work with them over the next year, and look forward to that.
For people who don't know what
CDP Community Development Partnership in Eastham. Thank you, Mary. We participate, especially the local housing partnership really drove this one, participated in the wall raising and then a work day at the Habitat site at Durkee Lane. Those are the two houses that are going up on Route 6. And we plan to have another one in April and would love, we'll throw out the word, love to have anybody join that, but it's really wonderful to see those going up. And they did achieve the financing they need to put solar on those two houses too, so that's just great. We have, as you might have read in the Cape Cod Times, we started discussions with the planning board about the concept of the accessory dwelling unit and also cottage colony conversion, and that is to be continued. I wanted to let you know that also the local housing partnership sort of drove the effort to put a little insert in the tax bill about raising money for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And just in the past month, $15,000 has come in for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And equally divided between our year-round and our seasonal residents. So it really feels wonderful to get that support. We're exploring the potential for moving a cottage on Route 6 to be used for affordable housing. It's the cottage that's on the land that the DCR will be taking for the bike path. The cottage has housed one of our affordable rentals over the past several years. We're just looking into the option of whether it's able to be moved and if there's a place to move it. And members of the Housing Authority, the Local Housing Partnership, people from the Finance Committee, our Assistant and Town Administrator attended the recent Housing Institute sponsored by HAC and the Community Development Partnership. And that has been we've gotten so much help in sharing from other towns that are involved in projects, and it's just a great resource.
Great, thank you. Thank you for your work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Elaine.
Thanks for listening.
Questions?
Oh, okay, yeah, if you
I
have some.
Yeah, one of my favorite programs, two things. Quick historical note. 20 years ago when I started doing the town stuff, there was almost no support in, people at this table and generally in the other boards and committees for housing. And eventually I got on the Housing Authority briefly, and then Ms. McElroy took my place when I went and did something else.
Yep.
But the approach that we talked about on the Housing Authority so many years ago is happening, which is we're not doing it just one way. We're doing it in all kinds of different ways. So I wanted to make that statement historically because that's really changed. So I have two questions about one of my favorite ways we do things, which is the buy-down program. Two questions. It's unclear to me. Are those properties then restricted to affordability forever?
Yes,
Yes.
there's a deed restriction put on them.
And where does that money come from exactly? Is there a fund? Does it come out of the, where do you get the money?
From the
CDP.
Community Preservation Act,
Right.
voted at town meeting, and then we also have used our Affordable Housing Trust Fund too.
Right, okay. And the decision is made by the Housing Authority?
Well, it's when we accept applications, and if there's more than one, it has to be a lottery. We're following all we actually have worked with a consultant doing this because we follow all fair market housing rules, which is, it's massive. We have to send out publicity to 300 sources when you're advertising affordable housing. Yeah, it's quite, and so we follow all those rules in doing this little project.
Is that what you use the consultant the town meeting funded for?
It's yes, we have
So
used that.
that's good
Yeah.
bang for buck. Thank you.
And that was very helpful in getting it approved by the state too. The consultant we were using at the time was fabulous. She got us she's helped us do the buy downs, got the approval from the state. She helped us finally get Durkee Lane up and running, and she did our housing needs and assessment plan. That was a very efficient use of those monies that we got several years ago. Now we look forward to the same kind of help from the CDP and working on other projects.
Thank you.
Good. Well, again, thank you. And Mike has something to say?
Yeah. Do you know how many affordable accessory dwellings have been made in the town? Do you have any idea what the
Well, they usually say there've been 15,
15?
yeah, but
And
they come and go.
yeah,
They're not deed restricted, you know, they come
the
and go.
affordable housing, okay.
Yeah.
And do you think we would be able to increase stock of housing generally if we were to eliminate the financial requirements and make it year-round? Do you
You
think
know,
more people would take advantage of it, I guess is the question.
This is why we really need to talk about this. We hate to see taking away any affordability requirement, but at the same time, a lot of the thinking behind the ADU, and there's a lot of documentation and research to support this, that in an area like the Cape and the Outer Cape, where you virtually have no rentals, starting to create rentals, year-round rentals at different price points helps, you know, kind of make natural affordability.
And it's my impression that 3 other towns nearby have done that, made them,
Yeah, well, Chatham has done it, Brewster just did it, Eastham has done it, Truro has done it.
okay.
And I think
Provincetown,
there's
too.
more, there's more. We've, since talking to the planning board the other night, we've been inundated with materials from other towns, so we have a lot of information to bring forward.
Okay,
that.
yeah, I was just
Yeah,
curious.
it's one of those mechanisms we're seeing as meeting that middle, the people that make, they make a little too much to qualify for the affordable housing, they don't make enough to purchase a home, you know, presenting a more diverse force of rentals should help meet that need.
It seems to me like a
Janet,
no-brainer.
Well, it's hard to regulate it.
May I, Janet?
That you don't, but that's, so this is for the next planning board meeting.
May I?
Yes.
Just quickly going to respond, Madam Chair, to Mr. DeVasto. The concern is how do we monitor it? How do we make sure if we're going to increase rental stock through the ADU bylaw, are we going to be able to keep it year-round and not
Right.
used out for seasonal rental? Because there's always that temptation, you know, I can make more on this in the summertime than I can in the wintertime. So we have to, you know, find that enforcement mechanism that allows us to create housing this way. But we're able to enforce it.
Sure.
Because, you know, I think it's a given, you know, if you can make more money, you're going to want to make more money. That's my thinking.
Yes, I understand that. I was just, there's so many towns doing it next door
Right.
that there must be
A lot
some
of good-
methods being used, and
Full-time
also
employee.
affidavits and leases submitted to the town.
So this is a huge area that we're not going
Sure.
to
Right.
digress to,
Yeah.
but also those other towns are very specifically for those towns. So
Sure,
there's
yeah, yeah.
pieces of it and stuff, but I think the planning board's been working on this more or less for like 10 years. And it's very difficult. It's the
Way
the
longer,
last-
way,
yeah,
way
Way
longer.
more, so.
Okay.
Okay, anybody, okay, you done?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elaine.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to extension of liquor license, Fox and Crow Cafe.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, do you want to introduce yourself,
Oh,
please?
sure. I'm Trudy Vermeeren. I own the Fox and Crow Cafe. I'm requesting an extension of my liquor license, which expired on November 30th through the end of the year. I don't even know if that's possible, but, so a couple things transpired. I was able to have a price for a heater, which I have to pay for myself. It's a rented building. But the price is relatively affordable, so I'd like to reopen. Part of my ability to reopen is I need to make money. So if I reopen, part of that would be opening for a couple of nights a week for pizza, and in the daytime for coffee and probably baked goods, very, very not what we do in the summer. It's going to be a much abbreviated menu. But the hours that I would be operating are pretty limited. I'm not looking to be open 5 nights a week, 7 nights a week. I'm looking to be open 2 nights a week. I have reached out through social media and announced that I was getting heat, and the response was tremendous. It was really surprising. People, and I put it out that I would like to have different events, groups, clubs, things that would be more communally oriented, that would get people to come out and just be able to hang out, basically. I'm paying rent anyway. I'm going to put the heat in. I feel like this is something I've wanted to do for a while. Extending the liquor license would certainly help me. It would also be, it would give me the ability to do things like wine tastings, beer taste, things that I can't do without the liquor license. I'm not looking to turn it into a big bar. And I am simultaneously applying for a year-round liquor license. So after talking with Jeannie Mack about the logistics of what I was trying to do, she said, well, just do this first and then go ahead and submit, because when you submit the application for a year-round license, you have to send it off to the state with the regulatory fees and everything else. And at this point, I really want to match this, meet this last year-end goal of being able to reopen. I don't know that I'll be able to get the license for January 1st through, for next year for the year-round license. I don't know that I'll be able to get that by January 1st, 2nd, whatever. But to get through the holidays and to be open as soon as the heat gets installed would be my goal.
Great. Any questions, comments from the board?
Comment, yay.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Is that your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay, Kathleen?
I'm thrilled about this. It couldn't happen with a better person.
Thank you so much.
It's you're going to carry the flag on this one, and it's
guess.
it's appropriate. It should
Yeah.
be you.
Yeah.
It should be you. I wish you well with this, and
Thank you.
we're all going to support it.
Okay. Justina?
Yeah, we all know how hard it is to pay the rent all year and then only have a certain number of weeks open. So I'm always in support of entrepreneurship and local business.
Thank you.
Because it's what makes our town, part of what makes our town. So thank you for being willing to work hard and have pizza and
I think everybody's got like a little personal thing that they want
yeah,
pizza.
we're all, well, no, I was going to also compliment the reaching out for, entertainment, and, here we all are in the winter, so thank you for
Yeah.
adding to it.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay,
Move
wonderful.
to approve the extension of the liquor license for the Fox and Crow Cafe to December 31st, 2019.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Oh, thank you,
We'll
guys.
We'll see you.
Yeah, time to deliver. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we have our Assistant Town Administrator, Mike Travato, appointing him to the Barnstable County Home Consortium Advisory Council. We still have a ways to go, yeah. So do you want to just introduce yourself again,
Sure.
but also say what the Home Consortium is, and
Sure.
thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Select Board members. Mike Travato, Assistant Town Administrator. The Town of Wellfleet has a vacancy currently on the Barnstable County Home Consortium Advisory Council. And this group typically is made up of town planners, housing coordinators, even housing committee members. And they meet at most once a month in the Barnstable County complex at 8:30 in the morning. And the primary task of the Advisory Council is to determine the allocation of the federal home funds received by the county, and to approve specific housing development funding requests within that allocation, to establish local home program policies, to remain current on state, local, and federal housing issues, and advocate for affordable housing. This position also acts as liaison with the local housing partnerships and committees, and reports relevant regional, state, and federal housing policy information, and shares local successes and/or concerns with the advisory council. Members are nominated by governing body, which is yourselves, and then would need to be appointed by the county commissioners.
Great. Well, it'll be nice to, I'm assuming that we're going to vote for, but it'll be nice having you on that and representing Wellfleet. Kathleen?
Yeah, Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Travato, how many meetings do you go to?
Are you talking about for this group, or are you talking overall?
In general.
No, this group, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were going to ask for my daily calendar here. This group meets, as I said, once a month at most, and so it's an early morning meeting, as I stayed in Barnstable. I happen to live in Barnstable, so I can get to that meeting probably a lot easier than.
And have you attended any of them before?
No, this would be my first one
Okay.
in January,
Okay,
if appointed.
if,
Big if, yeah.
big if.
Justina?
Thank you for being willing to do this good work.
No worries. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
From down there?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep.
I move to appoint Mike Travato as the Wellfleet representative to the Barnstable County Home Consortium for a term to expire January 31st, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, moving on to reappointment of shellfish constables.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm going to
you-
recuse
you're gonna
myself.
recuse yourself. Thank you for remembering. Do you want to do this one at a time, I suppose? Yes. Yeah, might as well do it. Do you want to do it, how do you guys want to do it? Together?
One
One
at
at
a
a
Motions
time? We got to
together.
do it, yeah, the motions together.
Oh, okay. whatever.
Yeah, let's do it together. Yep. Together, together again.
Hi, guys.
Hey,
Want to re-up?
Yeah, I don't need, any comments from the board?
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Any questions from the board, anything like that? So,
Sure you want to do this again?
yeah, they do.
Oh, don't ask that.
Yeah. So I'm not even going to pretend that you want to be here a long time and explain who you are and what you do, but I think you'd probably like to get home and get to bed or something, maybe? Go out?
well, I can speak for Chris. I would like to thank the town for giving us the opportunity to do what we do. We try hard and we'll continue to do so.
And I will say, I always get great reports of how wonderful you are from people just visiting town, seasonal homeowners and stuff, so it's great to have you guys continue. Yes, Justina?
I've never heard anything but great words about you
Yeah.
guys from the shellfish community, and I think we all have seen them be a tough audience, so
Yeah.
hear a lot
That's a good
about how
point.
what experts you both are, and it's nice to see the esteem and trust that you're held in.
Anyone?
Yeah, we got a good cover letter detailing some of the shellfish constable's respect for what you actually do. This is mainly for the audience. So it isn't just like, oh, yeah, great. There's details in here that make me want to reappoint you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's well documented, so.
Very well,
Yeah.
yeah. Do we
May I
want to
make a
read any
motion?
highlights?
No, I
Okay,
think we've
okay,
rubbed these
good.
guys enough, so.
Yes, you may make a motion.
I move to reappoint John Mankiewicz as Assistant Shellfish Constable and Chris Manula as Deputy Shellfish Constable for a period of 3 years.
Second?
All in favor?
And why is there no
Yeah,
date
because he
in this?
recused himself.
No,
Uh,
why is there no date in here?
Oh. So I wish, everything was this easy. So we can look up, do we have a date here? Date?
It's
Does it
okay.
say?
Let me just pull up this current. I think it ends like December 31st of 2019, so it'd be December 31st of 2022.
23, 22, yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
that's the date, Helen.
We'll say
Yeah.
December 31st of
Okay, I move
20.
to reappoint John Mankovich as Assistant Shellfish Constable and Christopher Manula as Deputy Shellfish Constable for a period of 3 years, ending, for a term ending on December 10th, 31st, 2022.
22.
Okay. Just so you got it in writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for everything.
And now we'll have a report on SPAT. Nancy's going to do this one? Yeah, on SPAT and recreational shellfishing gear grant.
Will somebody get Mike?
Oh, yeah. Mike?
Mike?
So I'm not sure if you would have had time to review the document that I submitted to the SPAT Board of Directors, but this was a way for us to kind of report out. They gave us, I think it was $12,000 in 2018, which we put, it was supposed to be for seed, so we purchased seed with it. And then this year, we crafted together a program to support our recreational fishery. And they felt like they wanted their contribution to the town to touch as many people as possible. And we really supported that. John, who obviously is in charge of propagation, and I sat with them and kind of crafted something that we needed and they felt really positively about supporting. So if I just kind of put the highlights, we bought 400 bushels of quahogs from the state-run relay, and we put those over at Burton Baker Beach and in Chipman's Cove. We allow the Burton Baker Beach ones, we allowed it to open for just a couple of weeks, but we closed it again so that it will be there for next year's summer visitors, and they'll have a lot of clams then, because we're going to end up closing an area close to the breakwater next year with the quahog relay. So that way we have an area, people often ask, where can we get clams? Okay, that's your spot. So that was the first thing that we were able to do. They wanted us to do 15,000 pounds of whole sea clam culch. We bought an entire truckload. So that's double that, so 30,000 pounds of sea clam culch. Now it has to be overwintered, so we will be using that next season, but I just kind of captured all of the culching that we had done around the harbor, and certainly they were interested in the recreational area, so we kind of reported out on what we had done over by Indian Neck. Indian Neck seems to be a wonderful area for capturing wild oyster spat, and it's just an amazing area, especially when you get to big negative tides. There's great oyster picking there, and I've never heard anybody complain about picking oysters over there. So by putting down the sea clam culch, we're just ensuring that we're providing habitat for new growth in the future. We also did some spat collecting of our own in Chipman's Cove this year. Spat graciously provided money, and we've already ordered hats for next year, but we didn't get the money in time to order them for 2019. So they're on order already for 2020, and in the meanwhile, we conducted an experiment with sea clamshell and SEPA bags because we wanted to keep them up off the bottom. Number one, because they tend to catch better. Number two, because Chipman's has a lot of mud, and so we just wanted to try this as an experiment. It was very successful, and the sea clam culture did great. So that did get distributed around Chipman's Cove as well. And then we're currently working with SPAT to develop signage that would be placed at each of these areas with their logo, because it was a significant donation. And we feel like the public should know that they are contributing to the sustainable future of our wild fisheries. So we're working on with them now, and I need to figure out who do I talk to about how big signs are allowed to be, because I don't want to run into
The
any problems.
building inspector.
That,
Great,
and you're
thank
going to
you.
have to talk to the NRAB.
And natural resources, yeah.
They might not be allowed, Nancy.
Well, we do put them, like, we put our shellfishing signs very kind of inconspicuously,
Discreetly,
but
yeah.
present. But yes, that's a great idea, so I'll follow up on those too. And then I kind of broke down how much we've spent to date, which is almost $12,000 of the $17,700. So we have about $5,000 left. And we look forward to working with SPAT in the future. We had some ideas for doing some other things with the funds that they've given us, and so I'm waiting to hear back from them on that. But we can, at the very least, participate in the Quahog Relay again next year. So really kind of making good on their intention of building up our recreational fishery. So we feel really confident about the work that we've been able to accomplish together with their funding. And I wanted to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah,
Helen?
I'm having a geographic confusion, which is clear in your mind. So over off Indian Neck, near the breakwater, there are going to be clams that people can get. And along that same stretch, you're going to be putting some relay from, right. How far apart?
So when you, do you know which one Burton Baker is when you come around Cove Road?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Burton Baker, between the rock on the right and the breakwater on the left, that is the closed area. So then we're going to go all the way down to the other end of the rec area, the other boundary. It's basically on the southern boundary of the rec area, and now we're going to work on the northern area, boundary of the rec area, which is the
yes,
breakwater with the beacon at the end.
Yeah, well,
so
and
that will be closed,
lots
which
of
will be a big
signs,
impact. But
lots of signs.
yeah, lots of signs.
And many feet separation.
Yeah, the entire Indian Neck Beach
Okay,
separating
thank you.
them.
I was
But
a
it's
little,
also an area where people have traditionally looked for clams, and Johnny says it's good clam bottom. So we really want to build that up, and I think people will be very patient with that because they're used to going there and they're just not there like they used to be. And then by allowing them to spawn, then what we're doing is trying to create beds that will be naturally reproductive in the future.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, Madam Chair, I learned a new term, clam bottom. Yeah, thank you, Nancy.
Coined by Johnny.
So wonderful. Good.
Okay.
Thank you for doing this.
Great.
Thank you for
Thank you,
reporting.
Nancy.
Thanks to SPAT. I mean, they're making this
Yes,
possible.
thanks, yes.
So.
Okay, and next we will hear from SPAT, right? You want to have the 2019 Oyster Fest report from SPAT. Michelle, who's all coming up?
Hi, Michelle.
Yeah, come on up, come on up.
Oh, good team effort.
Yeah.
So shall we introduce ourselves?
Yes, you should.
My name is Michelle Inslee. I'm Executive Director for SPAT.
Lisa Brown, Board of Directors and Founder.
Alfred Picard.
Nancy O'Connell.
Board?
So thanks so much for having us. We just wanted to let you know that it was a successful Oyster Fest this year, if people didn't notice. And we had perfect weather. It was 50 degrees, sunny. It was the best fest we've had in probably 3 years. So we were all quite surprised. And in some ways we had some challenges, and when we get that many people in our tiny little town, it gets a little tight. So we understand that there were some challenges with the safety. So we are looking at that and taking responsibility for that and seeing what we can do to assess to make it safer, enhance public safety in the future, and also the visitor experience, because we know that it's not fun for the attendees when it gets so crowded. So we're considering all of that, and we've developed a public safety committee, and so that consists of board members, the group at this table, and then the police chief, the fire chief, Matt Frazier, and we've been looking at ways to enhance the flow, reconsidering traffic and bus routes, and all of those different variables that create a safer environment, protect all of our interests, and then make it more enjoyable for the public.
Do you really think the public isn't enjoying it? I mean, you say you want to make it better for the attendees, and I hear you. I mean, of course you do. But I would think you'd also want to make it better, that the consideration of the town and the people who work there. I mean, how does it flow with all the vendors? I mean, are they overwhelmed as much as do they feel overwhelmed rather than the attendees? Because attendees just get to move around and have fun.
Well, I think we all share in,
Yeah.
It's limited space.
You want to make it good for everybody.
We want to make it good for everyone.
Townspeople,
Yep.
homeowners, yeah.
So we take it very seriously. We're really committed to that. In fact, we've met 5 times since the fest
Yeah.
to start to evaluate just different scenarios and what our options are. And then our plan would be to continue meeting, explore possibilities, and then come back with a more comprehensive plan.
So I was up north that weekend and coming back on Saturday afternoon. I was leaf peeping, and not as a public service announcement, but the newscaster on the radio said, and by the way, Wellfleet Oyster Fest is in progress. Don't forget to go. I mean, it was a news announcement. It was a news event.
We had heard that too. It was on the Boston meteorologist
Yes,
said it on
yes.
television in advance of the weekend.
Yeah.
So we don't advertise because
Yeah.
of this reason, but people advertise for us, and so it contributed to a very full event. But I think that people were were successful and had a great experience. But we know that we have to protect our interests and make sure everybody's safe and happy.
Kathleen?
Yeah, we heard a report from our fire chief and our acting police chief that they were pretty maxed out when the security firm that you had hired did not show at 10:30 a.m. on Saturday. I'd like the public to know that that was not something SPAT had planned on, and it did happen, and we were lucky. We were really, really lucky. Nobody likes being in that situation, particularly our police chief and our fire chief, nor do the Board of Selectmen like being in a situation where the liability issues for the town are insurmountable. So, yeah, that's a big one for you guys to work on. And I don't know how we can dial it back, tone it down, go for less. We really just don't have the infrastructure, either in safety or fire, or the infrastructure in water and septic to do that kind of business in 2 short days. It's something we really have to think about going into the future. Because what is a great event, what is a great kick in the economy for the town of Wellfleet and for everybody that wants to attend this event is could be in the end very detrimental, environmentally and so on and so forth, so.
Sure. May I? So I hear you, Kathleen, in a really big way, and I think when we as founders really were looking at this thing, we were really just looking to have a town party to rival Truro Dump Dance. So, almost 20 years later now, we're looking at a weekend this last time that was unprecedented as far as fitting, X amount of people into a small, finite square footage. I think all of us were in an oh my godism by about 11:30 on Saturday morning. And you're absolutely right. We're very fortunate that nothing happened. A couple of bee stings. I think there was a transport for one reason or another, kind of business as usual. So we were very, very fortunate. A couple of the things that we've talked about, I've been off the board now for about 6 years, and I'm now back on. And that notwithstanding, what happened in the few years that I was off was really lousy weather, no oysters one year. There are a lot of mitigating factors so that really the fest was, you could swing your arms around and not hit anybody for the most part. Not as much on Saturday, but certainly on Sunday. This was a perfect storm of perfection that happened, over this period of time. And so it was a very big wake-up call. So one of the things that we're reinitiating is we're reinitiating meeting and starting an action plan, an evacuation plan, a thorough evacuation plan. We did it with Dave Vieira and all the FEMA people and stuff years ago. We've been using that footprint, but that footprint has to change because you can't fit that amount of people in that finite a space. There are laws about that. So we recognize that. Also, the snafu of not having the security people was a real blow to us because it kind of blew everything off the charts. So one of the things that we've been talking about, we've talked with the chief police and also fire. We've met we've met now 3 times together. And you've met even more than them. But we're reinitiating an action plan, looking at expanding the fest on either end just a little bit, but enough to really create more flow, to limit perhaps some of the vendors, get them all on one side, make sure that that egress and access is 14 to 16 feet again. Changing some of the porta potty configurations. There's a lot of things that we're looking at in this thing and we're looking for suggestions and would love to have a member of your committee on this committee to problem solve some of this stuff because Lord knows we don't want the fest to go away. It pumps in millions of dollars into this area. And we're now, one of our initiatives is to do this marketing plan, which is huge, which would actually finally put Wellfleets on the map in a national way so that these guys, so the shellfishermen have a market that they can sell to so that it's, a big shot in the arm. So, we need input from the Board of Selectmen on this too. We've got a good safety committee in place right now, and we feel, and we just really want to take a look at what these concerns are because they scare the hell out of us too.
Okay, Justina?
I think that's a great idea. You guys are kind of the victim of your own success. This has really put Wellfleet on the map. I had some rental property I sold, and definitely my tenants all knew about it, wanted to get to Oyster Fest. It's a huge boost, as you mentioned, to the business community, but I think given it takes place on town property, it would be great. It's a great idea to have a liaison and give you guys perhaps the support so that And not in this meeting, but perhaps another time, we could get an overall financial snapshot. I come from a business background, so I'd love to know how much. I'm not putting you on the spot. This is not something we need.
We're actually happy to give you a few numbers and to let you know how much we've given to date, how much we've got in the bank, what we made.
I think that's really important because it's just because of the size of the success you guys have. And it's a nonprofit, but it's such a great thing for our town. And I think this year was a wake-up call for all of us. And, you know, going to help go forward in an even more positive way. But, yeah, I'd love to hear any top-line numbers you have, what you tend to take in and what you're able to give out. And then I know that will change because you want to fund the marketing plan.
Sure. So we estimate that 23,000 people came this year, and we made 370,000. The event usually costs us around 150,000 to operate. I'm expecting that that's probably going to increase next year with some big, significant safety measures. We've given out over or nearly 600,000, so 570,000 in grants. 30,000 to the Shellfish Department, 30,000 to Mass Audubon for the Wellfleet, for West's 4th and 5th grade coastal ecology program. The scholarship we've probably done about, now it's probably just around 120,000 in the Nauset Regional Scholarship Program. We gave 2 scholarships out this year because there were 2 students that we felt had merit, so we gave out a $20,000 college scholarship this year. Let me see if I'm thinking of anything else. And 10,000 to dredging fairly recently. So those are some top things. We've committed 100,000 to our marketing campaign, which we are just beginning. We have a brand identified. That would be an overarching brand that all of the growers, or all of the harvesters could use and market their brands under. Mm-hmm.
So you probably have a fairly sizable reserve, or maybe not? You do?
Yeah, we do. We always have a reserve for 2 years to run the Oyster Fest.
Makes sense.
Because that way we could weather a rain out and then carry on, because we feel that this event has to sustain. It's too important to our community not to.
Yeah.
So
every business needs a reserve.
Yeah, so that's what our, you're welcome.
So I do think it would be, now that you mentioned it, nice to post the financial aspect, and since it is a town event, I mean, people always wonder where the money goes, and to not just say 2 scholarships, but how much the scholarships are for, and, you know, that how you do give back to the town and stuff.
Yep.
I know people would really like to know that specifically.
And it's good PR for you guys.
Yeah.
Because that way when people are cursing that there's all this traffic,
Yeah.
they know all the wonderful things that you guys do and support. So I think a financial summary would be good for the community and good for all the hard work you guys do.
And then there's also the multiplier, the economic impact that it has on the community, and that's something we've done anecdotally through interviewing business owners, but I feel like it would even merit exploring. So we really would know that.
Well, I've also heard that from business owners that, you know, it is the final weekend to make your money, but that many restaurants, hotels, inns, whatever, shops, it is their
It's a gauge.
it's their last chunk of money to get them through till April. So it really is a valuable economic asset. I think I read last time you were here, when were we here, that the lovely lady, the lady that wrote about the AIM thrift store. Did you guys get that letter? Where she said that she thanked Oyster Fest because, because at the AIM thrift shop, so many people came in and that they made a lot of money that weekend. So that's something you don't realize how many businesses are, along with vendors, but the businesses are really benefiting.
Mm-hmm. Well, the whole idea of putting it on the shoulder season outside of Columbus Day was exactly for that reason.
Yeah.
And I know that as a former restaurant owner of the Flying Fish, getting rid of the rest of the food after Columbus Day
Yes,
weekend,
yeah.
that's how you drain the,
Yes.
get rid of all the stuff in the freezer and everything, so.
It's a good weekend for a yard sale, too.
Any questions, comments, Mike?
I just had one question. I had heard that the insurance policy, that the amount that the SPAT was insured for was obviously based on, previous events, but potentially like inadequate for what's going on now. So I was just wondering if you're considering increasing the liability insurance for the festival in general.
That's a good suggestion. I'll look at that. I'll bring it up with our insurance company. I believe it's 1 million, 3 million?
1 million, 3 million.
I believe that's
Yeah.
what it is.
I would think you're overinsured naturally, but check
Overinsured?
on it.
I'll find
Yeah,
out about
I
that.
would-
This
I
is,
would've thought that.
we moved to this insurance company several years ago because this insurance company specializes in big events, and they do huge festivals, bigger than ours, so I felt like they were coming to it with some experience.
Any, okay, Helen?
Yeah, so brainstorming a little here. Don't forget, when you're considering one of the many ways that you help the town, and thank you, you make so many good moves with money. I really appreciate it. We all appreciate it. Consider things that will help keep taxes down. In other words, there are things that come up on the warrant and so forth that have to do with shellfishing. And if you contribute to that and help pay down the debt service, it reduces taxes, and that affects everybody. It's just a small thought, but it could be one of the criteria that you consider when you're thinking about where to put your money.
Yep.
Of course, giving money to the Shellfish Department does that, but still.
Our annual meeting is coming up in January? Do you want to say anything or no? All right. Our annual meeting is coming up in January, and we take under consideration, we look at where we're going to put the money, and we look at suggestions and things at that point, so we'll keep that in mind, too.
Justina?
Well, thanks so many of you for coming and giving such a great report and surviving that security situation and moving on, and all you do.
Can I share one thing about the security firm? That we really knew that this company wasn't really meeting our needs anymore because the festival has grown, and so we were looking for a more professionalized firm, and we've already interviewed 2 companies. In fact, one came to see the fest this year.
Oh, good.
While we were in.
We didn't even know our company wasn't coming, but I was like a half step ahead to get this company to come and look at our event. So one of the companies actually has been to it and saw it in its craziest peak.
Great.
So, and then both of the chiefs are involved with that interviewing process.
Yeah.
Right.
It also says a lot for the people who do come to the Oyster Fest, the people who volunteer and put it together, and our fire and police department, that nothing really bad did happen.
Not yet.
And Fraser, what do you call your business? I'm just forgetting the whole name of it.
M.A.
But that,
Fraser.
so that you were well enough organized that when a major kerfuffle happened, it wasn't, I wasn't here, so I just don't think it was that bad, but that it did manage itself and people rose to the occasion, so then you just check it off for next year. Take care. Yep, good. Thank you. Nancy, yes.
I just wanted to, I'm Nancy Chivetta, the Shellfish Constable. I just heard, I'm not going to comment on the event itself, but I am going to comment on the impact that SPAT has had, I talked about earlier, but the forward thinking of this organization, and I did not know that their marketing campaign was going to invest $100,000. That is a bona fide professional marketing campaign. At a time when competition is great and increasing in the shellfish market, at a time when there's a lot more aquaculture and shellfish coming online, and it's Wellfleet has a wonderful historical brand name, but we've said for a long time that we can't rest on our laurels. And I hear every year, I hear shellfishermen complain about dips in the market, especially in the fall. So that kind of investment is going to help keep the Wellfleet shellfish name and brand top of mind. And I talked to other shellfish officers across the Cape and across the Commonwealth, and they would all love to have a marketing arm. Shellfish advisory boards want to have marketing, and they don't. And we're so blessed to have this nonprofit that goes to bat for the product that's grown and raised here in Wellfleet. So I just want to express that. I'm very impressed, and I think that the ripple effect of this down to the shellfish farmers and the harvesters in this town will really benefit from this important work, and thank you.
Yes. Thank you. We know you guys work really hard. So, any other comments, board? Okay.
Thank you.
See you next year. Okay. And moving on to the vote for the authorization for signing of permit applications for the Herring River Restoration Project. This is to authorize our town administrator to sign the permits in our MOU 4, right?
No.
Nope, but since it changed. Yep, so, do you want to introduce yourself, Carol?
Good evening. Excuse me. Yes, Carol Ridley, coordinator for the Herring River Restoration Project. Consistent with MOU 4, which was the document that you voted and authorized and signed this past June, I believe, along with the Cape Cod National Seashore. So permit applications for Phase 1 of the restoration to restore 570 acres are being developed. And we are very close to being ready to submit our very first permit application to the Cape Cod Commission. And there are a number of others that will be required going forward that won't be submitted until sometime next year. So back in, I think, 2016, the board had voted to authorize the town administrator or chair of the select board to sign the permit application for the Cape Cod Commission filing at that time. I included the vote in the packet given to you. That vote referenced the town of Truro, which at that time was involved, and also the actual filing has changed in name. It's a little bit different than was originally envisioned. So we're requesting that you sort of vote to reauthorize permission to allow the town administrator or chair of the select board to sign permit applications. And we're suggesting, just for efficiency's sake, because we're going to have a number of them coming forward, that we just encompass them all in this one vote. So we did provide you with a comprehensive list of the environmental permits that will be needed for the project.
Great. Any questions?
I love the list.
Yeah.
And it's more detailed, more precise than what we authorized originally. In the future, it's fine with me if we ask the town administrator to do it because he's more generally available. But for this kind of document, I have a tendency to want all our names on this kind of document for a couple of reasons. One is support evidence. I mean, we're voting to authorize it tonight. The other is how many times have I wanted to look something up to find out who was on that decision? And it hasn't been that clear always, and the minutes aren't always available. But that's not necessary for tonight. Yeah.
Well, and this isn't really about documents or decisions. I'll say decisions. It's really just about the permits, right?
Correct.
So it really is just signing a permit that has been
That's a big
authorized and
decision.
done. It is big, I hear what you're saying, but it's not, I think it's, the whole idea of this is to facilitate the facility of it, right?
Yeah.
To keep it moving and easily, and if
Yes.
a permit comes in, town administrator can sign it rather than waiting 2 weeks or more for the whole board to do it, so, you get, yeah.
So Janet,
Yes.
Through you to Ms. Ridley, are you asking us to reauthorize or authorize?
Well,
What needs to be in the motion?
The motion that we provided, actually
Says
reviewed
to
with
authorize.
town council to authorize, correct. We shared the prior, with Dan's permission, we shared the prior authorization with council to take a look at it and just give us a sense of whether it should be updated because it was a few years old and so forth. So actually, it is an authorization. Thank you for the correction.
Good. Any other questions, comments? Does someone want to make a motion?
I vote of the authorization for the signing of the permit application for the Herring River Restoration Project. I move to authorize the town administrator to sign on behalf of the town of Wellfleet as an applicant or as a co-applicant with the Cape Cod National Seashore, as the case may be, environmental permit applications to be submitted to the Cape Cod Commission, the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Massachusetts Coastal Zone Management, U.S. Coast Guard, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Massachusetts Department of Transportation, Truro Conservation Commission, and Wellfleet Conservation Commission for review and approval of Phase 1 of the Herring River Restoration Project as set forth in the Herring River Restoration Project Final Environmental Impact Statement, Environmental Impact Report dated May 2016, Mass EOEEA number 14272, and to further authorize the Friends of the Herring River, Inc., and their respective consultants to represent the town of Wellfleet in connection with the public hearing and processes of other aspects of the permit administration with the above-named agencies.
Second.
So, I'm almost going to cry.
Second. All in
Gotta
favor?
take a breath here.
Okay. All in favor? All right, great.
Wonderful.
Another
Thank you
step.
very much.
And thank you all for coming.
Now
That
everybody's
was
going to
easy.
leave.
Yeah.
You always say that, Justine.
No, I don't.
Okay, so moving on to Select Board reports.
Not much. I went to the Shellfish Committee meeting last night. I went to the day-long Herring River Restoration Technical Team meeting, and that's about it.
Yeah, I can't really report on anything interesting. Yep.
No, I don't want to cut you off.
No, I don't have anything really to report.
I don't have much.
Stuff, but
Thursday, I'll be up at the Cape Cod Water Protection Collaborative meeting, listening to a quick update on what other towns are doing, and I will report back. And I'll also be pulling wastewater into the loop.
Okay. Anyone else?
Good night, Irene.
It is fun to say that. And then we'll move on to Town Administrator's report. Any questions? Okay.
Respectfully, can you guys not talk in the room? Thank you.
Biggest thing for the town administrator's report is that the budget.
What? You like the meeting? Oh, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
The budget has been, the town administrator's budget has been finalized and delivered to everybody. If you have not picked up your books, they're in the select board office. The finance committee also has their books for any audience member or any interested citizen. They are also, if you go to the selectmen's tab on the town's website, the FY21 town administrator budget is included there. And I welcome any questions from anybody on any board or any resident that has questions. So,
They're awesome, Dan.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're kind of fun to read.
Yeah, thank you so much for delivering it in a timely way. I have a question. So last year, I got an enormous benefit from going to quite a few of the FinCom meetings. And I also went to ours. And this year, not so much. But would it be possible to do this little extra piece of outreach this year, which is to send the board, the FinCom's meeting schedule with their
Absolutely.
agendas, so that like if one of us wanted
Yeah,
to go to a
good idea.
DPW,
Sure, we get
because
it.
they come to us, but I tell you, it was very different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's more detailed.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you with Comcast, anything progress with more Wi-Fi, better Wi-Fi, or?
You know, when one of the things that I'm looking at right now is there's two separate issues. One is what we call the second island of Lieutenant Island.
Right.
I'm going to hopefully have a meeting with a couple of the people who are residents there to help facilitate and get the easement process going forward so that we can resolve that issue. And then the second one is the Department of Revenue, I think it was, issued a new regulation or advisement that we as a community can contribute to the expansion of the Comcast network. So normally there would be you couldn't do that for one specific individual, but in this situation, or one group of individuals, but in this situation, it's considered a public safety issue.
Yeah, so it is, okay.
And so I'm
Right.
hoping to maybe find a way to negotiate with Comcast, because we do have some money from the past that's in our cable receipts reserve fund. I'm hoping to negotiate with Comcast and say, we're willing to pitch in a little bit here if you'll be able to bring Comcast service to these individuals.
Okay.
And I'm working on it on two different fronts there.
Good. And I've encouraged Mike to get involved with that too, all that stuff. So, and this is actually a good opportunity. I don't know if I mentioned it to you, Dan, but Heather Doyle, not Boyle, Heather Doyle. Yeah. She is a real techie and knows all the
Yeah.
lingo, and she's been in touch with you,
Yeah.
right? Because she can also just help with maybe knowing what we need or getting people going with that. It would be really important, and I know that the state really has to step up and help with that in some way, along with Comcast. Who had their hand up over here? Helen? Was
I'm
it
just gonna-
Helen?
Oh, could it have been? No, I'm going to actually tell this to Dan after the meeting.
Good. All right. Anyone else on the administrator's report? Moving on to correspondence and vacancy.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot to write down
Couple
stuff down
things.
about that.
We got two, or we're about to get one, because it was just sent to the chair and reasonably, because they wanted maybe an agenda item. But we got two shellfish-related communications.
So we're not going to
And-
discuss these?
No,
we're
we're
just
not.
gonna- We're
I'm
just going to mention
reporting.
them?
I'm
Okay,
mentioning
yeah.
it. And they brought up two different issues, and we got a communication from the Shellfish Constable
Right.
about that. And okay, and then, who knew that we own the clock in the Congregational Church?
I did. I was on the CPA committee.
Okay, I have to say, why? Why?
There's a reason, and I'm trying to remember why.
Because we don't need that anymore.
There was a reason, what? Our
And I'm not-
famous town clock?
Madam.
Don't let anybody hear that.
Madam Chair, I'm not quite done. If we own it, that's great. I wish we had some leverage in giving money for it, because their chimes,
Can we not make this an agenda item?
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Please?
Corral
Because it is
me.
going to
But
be an
we-
agenda item?
We do own it, so, and they come to us every so often for money. Okay, so that's an agenda item for next time. Anyone else with an agenda? I've got a couple things. So I see in the emails going back and forth about a water meeting, and I do mean a big water meeting. So I know that Horsley Witten has submitted their recommendations, and that maybe the select board and other water boards can hear that, and then we could have, and not us having a meeting, but again, maybe Board of Health can call a meeting with Horsley Witten
December 9th, Hillary did a
No,
dual
it's- you mean
poll.
January 9th.
January
Well,
9th, yeah.
so it, yeah, I know. A lot of, so that is not as comprehensive as I think I would like it, but I'm not sure. I was going to check with Dan. So I'm just suggesting that we look into having a bigger open meeting with Water Commission, wastewater, and water mitigation, and the whole thing, like we did in May. I think it was May we did it last year. No, was it May or later? It was
Madam
later.
Chair, it was later, and the water commissioners, I would love to meet with the water commissioners and
Yeah.
have them bring us
Yeah.
up to speed, all of us at the same time.
Yeah.
I asked for that on my future concerns.
Yeah, we got to get
But
that
that's a
going.
separate issue than the wastewater,
Well,
and they,
I think there's benefits to having, excuse me for having something in my mouth. I think that there's benefits having a joint meeting. Scott Horsley is qualified to make observations on water, and most communities do water and sewer together. So I think that, and they have them in the same department. So I think it would be good to start having some sort of communication and coordination, even if it's just a couple of times a year.
And so Hillary did a great job of organizing that last meeting, and maybe you could confer with her about if she wants to do one. I mean, I don't want to step on her toes about
I think she's
saying.
already got one planned.
Well, she does, but it's not, there could be more people asked to speak or something. I'm not sure, so Dan could kind of,
I'll follow up with her.
just tell Hillary that I personally really liked that meeting and learned a lot, and if she wants to do something similar to that,
It was really good.
yeah.
It's fast moving, excuse me for talking with my mouth full and not being recognized. It's fast moving with a lot of funding coming down the pike.
Yes.
And the issues are complicated. So I actually was really against that meeting that we had with the state. And I was humbled because it was such a
It
good
was really
meeting.
good.
And I think that I was pleased with the amount of better understanding that came out of it.
Yeah.
My fear was we looked bad in front of the state. I don't think we did it all. And from just a couple of water committees that I sit on that have other towns via the Cape Cod Commission, we're in good shape compared to other towns. So this is just endorsing that idea of
Yeah.
another group meeting possibly in addition to
Still on
Hillary's.
correspondence.
No, we're on future agendas.
Yeah.
We're on a
Yeah.
future topic.
and Madam
So,
Chair,
wait, I just want to, before I forget, so Courtney, you could add with the Shellfish Constable and the letter we received, if that hasn't been resolved by January, that can be on our agenda, that should be on our agenda,
what?
the letter that you mentioned
Oh, yeah,
regarding
sorry.
shellfish.
Yeah,
So that would
sorry,
be on our
sorry.
agenda.
Here, too.
Mike, did you have something?
I don't know. I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't really. No.
Okay.
About,
thought about it,
we're doing future meetings, so,
Future agenda
Yeah,
items.
yeah,
We're not doing
future agen-
future meetings, we're doing future
well,
agenda.
it says here, topics for future discussion, yeah. Just to confirm that meeting that Hillary
Right.
did the doodle poll, it will be posted for us.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Madam Chair, are we going to drop having dilapidated buildings on the topic for future concern?
Please,
What do you mean drop it?
no.
No,
let's
you
have-
Oh, you didn't get the memo?
You,
Mikey didn't say anything, so I wondered,
Well, I
sorry.
just figured it was still on the future.
It
concerns.
is.
in the queue.
yeah.
It's in the queue.
Yeah,
I didn't.
so we could talk about that if we have any information.
Shellfish
And
shape in
at
the
some
queue.
point,
Sure.
so Mike, when do we want to talk about the harbor and all that? We have to get a meeting together. Yeah,
I can't
Yeah.
hear.
so,
Early January?
or mid-January, whatever, early, but it doesn't matter. So, there's always a lot of talk about what to do with the harbor. Mike Flanagan has had GEI draw up a plan. There's a lot of movement and change going on at the harbor, and a lot of different ideas. So sometime we should have I don't know if it should be at our selectmen's meeting, but an open meeting so that townspeople can put in some ideas and see what some plans are. I know that, was it 6 years ago, when we had the whole harbor, marina bathrooms, Mayo Beach Rec Department, and all these plans and cluster systems. So it's time to kind of re-energize it, and we can include the Shellfish Shack in that, if anybody wants to. All that stuff. We need to talk about the marina and the harbor. So, but that's, again, maybe end of January or something after all these other meetings get going. And we now need to appoint someone to be the liaison for SPAT. Take them up on that.
I nominate myself.
You want me, I was gonna
I
say,
second that.
I second.
Before you
Hold
change your
on.
mind.
No,
And
no.
we'll be happy to put that on a future agenda when it's
Yeah.
on the agenda.
Yeah, because I was going to nominate Kathleen, so you guys can
Kathleen,
fight
do
it
you
out
want
if you want. No?
I won't be hurt.
Okay. You had a lot of ideas about it. But yes, so that should be, we can't do it tonight because it's going to be, whatever. There might be
What's so
people
funny,
coming.
Courtney? What's so funny, honey?
It's been a long day.
It hasn't. Hey, we're getting out early.
Let it out,
This is easy.
Let's
Okay.
hear it.
So, it has been a lot, I mean, I don't even want, yeah, it's been, this should be like nice and easy time.
I
And
just love the reactions you guys give each other.
Yeah, I know. We have
The
fun.
old bitty
We have fun. Okay, anything else?
For
Minutes?
future agendas,
Yeah,
I think we're done.
good.
And I'm going to say something about these. I went over it, I did the typos.
What
such
are,
as-
what are you, you're talking about the
Looking at
minutes
them, are we
now?
on the minutes now?
We are now on the minutes.
Yeah, but my ability to watch any of the videos was not given to, I
That's
couldn't.
okay.
But I did my best.
I'm sure you did.
Well, yeah, and, okay. So I move that we approve the minutes as amended.
What Kathleen gave you?
Oh yeah, Kathleen made an amendment earlier, just one word on page 2 to change from project to.
Where?
From property, the entirety of the property to the entirety of the project.
Can you tell me where that is?
Page 2.
Page 2,
Paragraph
first
one.
paragraph.
Okay.
missed
Like
that,
fourth line to the right,
To the right?
On the right side
on
of the
the right
paragraph.
side of the paragraph.
The sentence says, Bacon asked if the police detail would be
Yeah.
used throughout the entirety of the property?
Yeah.
No, project, ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding, yeah.
So that was one of the things I couldn't check, and I put a question mark next to it on
You
my.
did, Helen?
I couldn't,
Oh, okay.
you know, I couldn't, because I couldn't get the video up.
Oh,
Thank you.
Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I need a second and vote on the
Oh,
amendments.
we didn't do that.
we
did we?
haven't
On
done
the what?
minutes.
Second
I
on the
sec-
minutes.
Minutes. All in favor of the minutes?
I move that we adjourn.
So moved?
All in favor? Great.
Thank you,
Thank
thank you,
you.
thank you.
Definitely.
So, guys?